Hello everybody and welcome to episode 36 of Le Wim Lex Show. This show is brought to you by Alexander, the founder of Spryker, Lena, CEO of Bright, and myself, Willem from Debt. And if you combine our three names, you get to Le Wim Lex. We're delighted that we have Michiel de Gooijer with us today. Michiel is the founder of Brightvibes. Before founding Brightvibes, he worked for media companies like Talpa and Endemol, where he was part of the team that created the Voice of Holland. The mission of Brightvibes is to amplify the good in the world. They are one of the largest video publishers of the world. Their videos have generated 200 million views over the past 12 months, resulting in 34 million comments. They also have more than 1.5 million Facebook likes. Hi Michiel, welcome to the show. Could you please introduce yourself and the reason why you started Brightvibes?
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure being here. A little bit about my background. I've had a corporate career for about 20 years. I studied international business, graduated on what you would call today e-commerce, the influence of direct sales on the retail channel. I've always been, and this was in 1995 when the internet hardly existed. So I've always been fascinated how new technology influences behavior and which opportunities arise from that. And I don't know how it happened. You connect the dots, looking back, but I've been able to make that my work, make a living by doing that. And I love technology, I love content, and I really like marketing. Used it for business only. And about Brightvibes, which I started 5 years ago when I made the switch from my corporate career to becoming an entrepreneur. And I made that switch because I really wanted to full-time add positive value to society, not just when I'm off work, doing some volunteering and stuff like that, but I wanted to do that full-time. I was looking for ways to do that professionally. Just having this impact was the most important thing for me, the most important motivation. I didn't care if I would start working for an NGO or work for a publishing house that only does constructive journalism. But I was looking for jobs and I didn't find them. And then I just created one.
Created your own job.
I created my own job, exactly. Yeah.
And tell us a little bit more about your corporate career because, as said, you're interested in innovation and new business models and media and content production.
Yeah.
I read somewhere that during your time at Endemol, you were part of the creative team that created the Voice of Holland. And then the voices, spread out all over the world. Is that... did you realize there when you were working on the Voice how you could make impact and reach millions of people?
That's interesting. When I worked at Endemol, when John de Mol was still leading the company, and he sold the company to Telefonica, and when they had their earn-out and everything, he left and he started Talpa, and I also joined from Endemol where I worked as head of digital video. I went to Talpa, and at Talpa I worked as the director of digital. And when we were at Talpa, that's where John de Mol created The Voice. And I was there. I can say that I was there from the start. But I didn't create the format. I was responsible for how we could translate The Voice and how we could use digital. And that's what I did. That was my contribution to The Voice.
What kind of elements did you add to the concept where digital played a pivotal part in?
Yeah, I think what was interesting is that, of course, now everybody knows about the huge success that The Voice has globally. I think it's one of the most successful and most profitable formats around the world. But when it was the first series, I think we're now at series 10 or something here in the Netherlands, or 11 already, I lost count. But when we did series 1, when I started working on The Voice, it was just a paper format. And nobody knew if it would be really successful. Neither did I. What I did know is that I really liked the positive side of that concept, because prior to that, it was more, when it came to talent shows, it was very much about slacking people off, making fun of bad contestants. And in this case, it was really, The Voice is really, really a positive show. It's where it's all about positive reinforcement rather than making fun of people. So I really enjoyed that. But I had, of course, no idea that it would be this huge. What we did, nobody had heard of The Voice yet. And what we created were online editions before The Voice actually aired.
Okay. Snippets of the show or full songs as well?
No, what we did is we asked people to send in their online editions.
Okay.
And we licensed software from a Spanish company that analyzes the voice, the quality of the voice.
Wow.
So we already used technology which was in line with the format because it's all about quality. So people that scored a 7 or higher, they were the ones that were actually reviewed by the team of the show and by the talent scouts, and only the ones that scored high had an opportunity to actually become part of the auditions. And we did that at the time. For the international listeners, probably in each country you all had your own local Facebook. In the Netherlands, that was called Hives at the time. And as The Voice didn't have any recognition yet, it had no pull in the market, none whatsoever. So we worked with Hives, who were huge at that time, big Dutch social network. And thanks to that collaboration and using that technology, we were able to already get 500,000 video views on these editions before the show had actually started. And we already introduced the concept that it was all about quality.
And that meant that the contestants in these videos were people who actually came to the auditions and were aired on television, as well as people who didn't make it.
Yeah, okay. You know television. You know how television works. Some of them were able to actually apply for the real auditions. And I think that only one candidate actually made it. Okay. But what we really did is that we already created a big buzz around the show before it actually aired. So I think that was...
Was that replicated in other countries as well?
Yes.
That way of work?
Yeah, okay. Exactly. Yeah, cool. It was. Yeah.
So then moving on in your career, you were at Talpa.
Yeah.
You were working on The Voice and probably many other concepts as well.
Yeah.
What was the defining moment for you to say, I need to do something else and I need to change the world and try to build a better world? Well,
actually, there was still... So I working at Talpa. I worked there only for only 1 year and a half. When I worked at Endemol, I also, which is the company also owned by John de Mol, there were like 5 layers between him and me. And when I went to Talpa, there was only 1 layer between him and me. I reported to the CEO, but I had a lot of meetings with John as well. So I learned loads from him in that 1 year and a half.
Could you give an example of a lesson learned by John de Mol?
Well, I think to never let go of what you actually believe in. If you look at in talking about The Voice, I think it's fair to say that there were people both internally as in the broadcaster business that were like, okay, so here we go again, another talent show. Who's waiting for another talent show? But John had a couple of, format elements that he so strongly believed in that he financed basically half of the show himself, and the other half was paid for by the broadcaster. So he took on a huge risk. He took on criticism as well. But he strongly believed in that it was going to be a huge success, and then he puts his money where his mouth is, and he doesn't take no for an answer. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned from John de Mol. And then a new opportunity arose, I don't mind saying that I found it was extremely. I learned so much by working closely with John de Mol. But our characters or our way of working is very, very different. So I moved on. And I moved on to Digitas, a big digital agency in the Netherlands. It was called Los Boys in the early days, then was acquired later on, Digitas. And that's where I set up in 2010. I ran a virtual joint venture between Lost Boys and Triple. Triple is a technology company also based in the Netherlands, and they are specialized in mobile. And Lost Boys at the time hardly did anything in mobile development. So I set up Lost Boys Mobile. Okay. And I set that up and I ran that department for 4 years.
And what kind of services or products did you build?
Yeah, we built. We started building apps for Talpa, for example, because I left in a very good relationship. So we started working for RTL, created apps for the voice, created other apps for RTL, and maybe this is a nice, a nice lead into why I actually left. Is that we also worked for Shell, so I acquired Shell as a customer. To develop apps for them, different types of apps, B2C apps, B2B apps, and I remember very vividly that I had, I would say, it didn't feel congruent with my personal values. Working with Shell, I try to live I'm not a saint, far from it, but I try to live as sustainable as I possibly can. And at the time that I acquired Shell as a customer, which was I think in 2013, I searched the annual report, and I searched for the word solar, and there were 0 results.
Incredible,
pretty incredible. If you think of the amount of money that, for example, pharmaceutical companies, there's a lot to say about pharmaceutical companies as well. But if you look at the R&D that they spend on the money that they spend on R&D. I think it's like 15 or 20%. If you look at technology companies, it's a similar number. And then if you look at the R&D that traditional fossil fuel companies used to spend, at least I don't know what it is at the moment, but I think it is around 1.5 or 2%, whilst they are seriously polluting the planet with the both upstream and downstream. They have a huge responsibility. I think they should invest a lot more, and they did very little. So that's why it felt inconsistent with my personal values.
So in a way, we need to thank Shell for laying the foundation and being the tipping point for your journey to become a social entrepreneur.
Yes, definitely. That's true. Yeah. I remember vividly, I was sitting in a room with 5 people from my team and 5 people from Shell's team, and they were wonderful people. Lovely people, very smart, highly educated, nice people. And so we were 10 people sitting in this one room, and we were discussing the design of one of those apps. And we were discussing whether the edges of the app should be rounded or if they should be straight. And we were talking about that for about 15 minutes. Then I went to the loo, and I looked myself in the mirror, and I was like, what the hell are we doing? Or at least I can't take responsibility for these other 9 people, but I can take responsibility for myself. What the hell am I doing? That was one of those moments where I was like, okay, I had sort of like a realization, and it might be uncomfortable for some people. It was uncomfortable for me at the time, but actually, I had this realization. It's like, man, I've got myself, and this is apparently this is an official term. I've got myself a bullshit job. This is ridiculous. I don't really want to be here. So that's one that's one pivotal moment. And another pivotal moment was that at the same time, in that same period, I've got 3 boys, and one of my sons got really ill, and everything's absolutely fine. But at that time, he had to go to intensive care, and the conversations that I had with my wife, with his brothers. Especially with his youngest brother, who at that time was 8 years old, he asked me a couple of questions about what Daddy, if you look at the people that work in the hospital and how incredibly kind they are. Actually, these people, these nurses, they work there, they're so kind, but they work in an environment, this is what my 8-year-old son Pablo said, they work in an environment where the people who they have to work with do not want to be there, because who wants to be in a hospital, right? And then he said, "And Dad, what is it that you do?" And I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm sitting here with 10 people, and we're talking
designing apps for Shell."
Yeah, for Shell. Like, oh my God! So I couldn't really explain it to him anymore. And to cut a long story short, I did go on my summer holiday, and I completely was able to not think about, how I felt about my role in my professional life and how much value I was or wasn't adding to society. But when I came back from holiday, it was exactly the same, and I knew that would happen. I was going out for dinner with both the managing director of Lost Boys or Digitas and of Triple, and we had to discuss what were my plans for next year. And to be honest, I didn't have any plans yet, and I didn't want to make any plans. I called up my wife before I got out of the car, and I told her. She knew, of course, that I wasn't happy anymore at work. And I called her up and I said, I'm going to hand in my resignation. I'm going to tell them that within 4 months, on the 1st of January 2015, I'm going to quit, and I will look for somebody else to take over my job. I want to leave on good standing. Or also buying a little bit of time. And then I don't know what it is that I wanted to do, but I knew that I needed to create headspace. So for me, it was, I couldn't think of something new, still being sort of like caught in this day-to-day operation, and I needed to break free. And, some people say that it's courageous. I think it is a little bit courageous, but not too much, because it's not like I was risking my life or anything like that. I think that a lot of people actually, I think we lock ourselves up, and by just handing in the resignation, just by stating that, it created headspace. And after 2 weeks, I knew exactly what it is that I wanted to do,
which was make impact.
Which is making impact with stories, through storytelling as a starting point. Okay. I worked in media for a long time. Yeah. I'm an avid user I was an avid consumer of both news as social media. And I Googled, and if you do it, it's still the same. So nothing has changed in that sense. If you Google "the news makes me" or "social media makes me," and you look at the auto suggestions by Google, it's scary. It says lonely, depressed, cry, jealous, sad, and I don't necessarily think that the medium in that or these platforms are the problem. It is how you use them. Yeah. And my assumption was that by creating what we call contagiously inspiring stories, we can use media as a force for good. Yeah. And it was an assumption when I started. And now having been in operation for 4.5 years, we know that it's true.
And I completely align with you. I mean, it's a wonderful journey that you describe, and it's also fantastic that you're countering all the fake news and negativity that is out there. When you talk about positivity and impact, could you give a definition of how you look at it, and for you, when to decide to put a video on your network or not?
Yeah. So I think we have, for each story, we have, whenever we create a story, there are 3 potential ideal outcomes. Okay. And I think the first one, and it's the softest, is to change people's mindset. Okay. Restore or strengthen their faith in humanity. Providing people hope, creating a positive mindset. The second thing is, outcome could be that people watch a video of ours and that they actually copy the behavior of whatever the contents of that video was, and they copy it. So to give you an example, when we made a video about Afros Shah, who is one of my heroes, he was nominated for the CNN Hero of the Year in 2019, and he was awarded the United Nations Champion of the Earth Award in 2018. He's responsible for the biggest beach cleanup in the world on Mumbai Beach. And when we created that video, what people could do, they could copy his behavior. They could copy the Avros's behavior. So whenever you go to work, you can just pick up some litter. So you might not do it as big, but actually that's how Avros started as well, just by picking up some, started to clean up the beach. So people can copy the behavior of what it is that they just saw. Or if they cannot copy the behavior, they can support the initiative that they've just been learning about. So another example, Just Dig It, or the Ocean Cleanup, or Just Dig It, that you do fantastic work.
Thank you. They were on the show. Wessel, the global marketing director, was on the show a couple of episodes ago.
Yeah.
We love them.
We're very, very proud to be working with them as well and helping them get the word out about how they are turning degraded land into fertile land again. So they're making Africa green again just by digging bunds, basically. That's how it starts, at least. And we created a big video for them that got over 1 million views and a shitload of interactions. And then that was the third outcome, is that people cannot go and dig holes themselves. It would be very inefficient to do that in Africa, but they can support Just Dig It. So they can they can donate, for example, they can buy their own bund. And so that's the three outcomes. To summarize, is positive mindset, copy the behavior, or support the initiative.
Fantastic. You talked about the example of the video of the wonderful gentleman cleaning up beaches in Mumbai. Let's zoom in on how you create content for your videos. Do you send over a team to Mumbai to film what is happening, or are there other ingredients that you use to create your videos?
Yeah, I like the word ingredient because we feel ourselves like content cooks. It's like cooking. And you use different ingredients, and it depends on the video. It can be a mix of all sorts of different inputs. It can be just one input. The case of Afros, it was that we interviewed Afros. So we reach out, we do a Skype interview. So I interviewed him. He lives on Mumbai Beach in an apartment block. So we caught him doing the interview whilst he was eating rice. It was very funny. We filmed him. Basically, he filmed himself in his home, and it was just a Skype conversation. And then he sent over a lot of footage that he already had. So it's a mix of original content, but I would say low quality in terms of bitrate and sound of quality, but very high quality in terms of the richness in the conversation and the insights that he was able to get across. And then we mix it with existing material that he provided. With Just Dig It, it was a video where they're very, very good at their PR and free publicity strategy. I think is really good. So they have a really, really nice library of content available. So they see the value of content. They have a lot of content creators, and they have a good backlog of everything that they recorded. And then what we do is that we create our own story. So we write our own script, but we use existing material. So that's the way it can work. We also film. We also film ourselves. So we go out with a small camera crew. Of course, we got a good camera, we got good lenses, and we take care of the sound and everything. But for us, we do not produce at TV production value or at TV commercial production value. So we produce a lot more lean and mean. But I think what really makes our content really, really good is that we take the time for the people that we feature. And oftentimes, TV production can be very rushed and can be staged. And we try to be to pay a lot of attention to people. And to make it as authentic as we possibly can. So we have less focus on production value and more on, I would say, the emotional value that we're able to extract.
And what is the average length of the videos that you produce? Yeah,
they range from a minute and a half to 8 minutes.
Okay, so they're all short videos.
They're all We produce only short video, but then I would say for us 8 minutes is quite long.
It's quite long. Yeah.
It's quite long.
Why?
Because when we started, we had a lot of guidelines. Like, okay, so a story has to be between 90 and 120 seconds, and we started producing that way, but we felt rushed ourselves. And then, we have our guideline now is very simple: is we make it as short as possible, but not shorter. And then we don't care how long it actually is. But I think on average now, our stories are between 3 and 5 minutes on average. Yeah.
Let's talk about distribution, because I understand that what I read and heard from you, you're very big on Facebook. Is Facebook still your main distribution channel?
Yes. I have a love-hate relationship with Facebook, I think, like many have. What I love is to see the response. It's still huge. So I know, especially in the industry, there's a lot of talk about Facebook, and it's like, they're gonna die and la la la. Maybe, but it's gonna take a very long time. There's still 2.5 billion active users every month, and what we see on our stories, the interaction, the feedback that we get in our inbox, it is still tremendous. But yes, we're working on a strategy where we are less dependent on Facebook.
Okay.
But I don't, to a certain extent, you can push consumers in a certain direction. So I don't know. Now, whenever we have a successful post on social media, we always add, if you want to get your weekly dose of Brightvibes, subscribe to our free newsletter at brightvibes.com/register. This is also a cue for the listeners.
I hear a call to action.
You heard a call to action. You got it.
Sorry to interrupt, but let's then look at your full distribution landscape. Yeah. Facebook is number one. Could you mention who else are
Facebook is number one.
Partners?
For us, Instagram is growing, and we're only, if you look at the number of followers that we have on Instagram, we're now approaching 50,000. But if you look at the interaction rate, it's a lot higher. So the impact, which for us is key, is already really starting to become significant on Instagram. Okay. Our newsletter is growing, which brings more organic traffic to our website. And of course, we still use social as well as a way to lure people to our website.
And YouTube?
We are on YouTube, and we do adapt the content slightly. But we do not have enough resources to do that really well. And I would love to kill it on YouTube as well. And I think I know what we need to do, but I currently do not have enough sufficient money to funds to do it well. So what we do is on social, especially on Facebook and on Insta, the orientation of the videos, it's either square or it's more vertical than it is horizontal. And it is short form, and titles are really important. And the way people consume on YouTube is very different. They take more time. It's much more in 16:9. Titles are less important, and personality plays a much bigger role. And the way we produce at the moment, we put our story and the people that form part of the story at the heart of the story, and not. You never hear me or any of my colleagues. You never see any or me of my colleagues. Because we have little time, people have a short attention span on social, and we want to focus on the good stuff that they are doing. It's not about us. But in order to grow an audience on YouTube, I think personality does play a big role. So that's something which we're working on. And I fully realize that with our 3,000 subscribers, or we can be happy with the 3,000 subscribers, because we do not put enough effort in really growing it. Yeah.
And when you talk about business models, I understand, of course, reach is very important. How do you earn money? Is there a business model, or is it like a non-profit initiative?
No. Okay. When I started Brightvibes, so that's now 4.5 years ago, I knew that at the first year and a half, we would not be able to make any money. So together with my co-founders, we put some money in, and we learned, we proved that, that people are actually craving for inspiring stories, and that these inspiring stories actually do have an impact. And that took us about 1.5 years. We grew an audience at that time of about 300,000 fans. And that's when we started to approach brands, organizations that are serious about having a positive impact and who want to get the word out of the good work that they do. And I ran into somebody I knew at DSM, Bright Science, Brighter Living is their tagline. And we were commissioned to do the first branded content for DSM, which is a big stock listed company. And they were collaborating with Bojan Slat from the Ocean Cleanup. This he's now 23-year-old genius who wants to rid our oceans of plastic. And it was DSM working with the Ocean Cleanup, but only on product management level. And they asked us to create a video about their collaboration. And we created this video. We interviewed Bojan. We explained how it exactly works. So we made an animation, all that. And that video, completely unexpectedly, but very happily, reached 10 million views and 780,000 engagements, completely organic.
Through your channels, through our
social channels.
Yeah.
Through our social channels. So it's interesting because they also put it on their channels.
Yeah.
And the reach and impact that we had was, I don't recall exactly the number, but I think it was like 25 times, 25 times bigger than on DSM's own channels.
And it was branded with the DSM logo.
It was branded.
Inside.
It was branded. I know if you go to the video and it's at 1 minute 23 seconds, that's where we explain the concept. And they use materials. They use it's called Dyneema. It's 15 times stronger than steel and 4 times lighter. It's very durable and sustainable material, the most innovative materials. And he needs those type of materials in order to be able to pull off what he's trying to achieve by ridding the oceans of plastic. So it is not like you sometimes see at television shows where you go like, oh my God, what is this sponsor doing? It is like a sponsor moment. This completely fit in. It was absolutely logical. It was it naturally blended in. And then at the end of the video, we had a billboard. So people knew that DSM was also supporting this video. And we tagged them on our social media and everything. And nobody cares. Nobody cares. I would say nobody minds. That's the better way to put it. We didn't have anyone go like, oh, but what does DSM do? No, what they're doing is they're helping.
Exactly.
The interesting thing, and I know it's a little bit, I don't know, if they're listening, they might, they might get back to me. But when at the time when we made this story, the relationship between DSM and the Ocean Cleanup was just on a product management level. We made this video and it became huge. It exploded. It was the biggest social campaign they had ever done. They told us to make the videos adaptable for the coffee machines around the world. So at DSM, all employees could see it. What I've heard back from my contact is that this started a question by the CEO of DSM, like, okay, I want to meet this guy. Who is this Bojan actually? And now they are huge partners.
Wow.
So I think in that sense also we had some criticism as not from our viewers but more in the market, like, okay, but DSM, are they the perfect company? Don't they do other stuff which might not be as sustainable as you would like to be? And I was like, their CEO on a strategic level, he is the face of the circular economy. He turned that company around. Is it perfect? No, it isn't. Nobody's perfect. But it's so very obvious that they are a leader when it comes to putting the stakeholders central rather than the shareholders. So very proud to be working with those type of companies.
So this is one example of say monetizing your network. Of course, due to the rise of digital, you see that there are a lot of traditional media publishers having a hard time on monetizing content. You see different models arising, subscription-based models, producing third-party content, advertising.
Yeah.
If you look at the larger picture of your monetization model, is producing third-party content for the likes of DSM your main revenue stream, or is it a mixture between, say, advertising and your shop and other activities?
It is a mix, but the majority of our revenue comes from content commissioned by brands that we are happy with, because that's the great thing. I no longer depend on whoever owns Digitas or Lost Boys if I can work with Shell or not. So we're not working with Shell, but we're working with loads of other companies.
I suppose Shell would come with Shell Recharge. I have an electric car and I have a new motion pass. Suppose for Shell Recharge, you're asked to make a video?
No, I wouldn't do it.
Okay.
But I'm very happy that they're now finally stepping up, whatever their motivations are. But I think that Shell has so much to make up for. Their very low level of investment in R&D, which we discussed earlier, and all that. No, I don't. I think that for me, at least, I'm very cautious of protecting our brand and our community, and I'm happy that Shell does this. But if they want to get that word out to the world, they need to look for another outlet.
So The Guardian looked at you when they decided to block ads from oil and gas companies.
I'd love to say that is the case. I've got no idea, but we did put it on Brightvibes as a good news story. The Guardian not taking money from fossil or gas companies. I think it might be just a symbolic step, but I think it's a really important step. One of the good news stories that we had in our January video compilation, BlackRock, the biggest asset management company with 7 trillion, that's 7,000 billion. I don't know how many, that's like 12 zeros, I think, or 15, I don't know. BlackRock also stated that they will now put sustainability at the heart of every decision that they take. We need to see that they actually do it, but making that statement in itself, I think, is huge. Today, I read at a Dutch newspaper about the floating of Saudi.com or whatever.
Saudi Aramco?
Yeah, Aramco. That there are still some Dutch pension funds or Dutch funds in investing, but the big ones, for example, APG or ABP, who are huge, they don't want to invest in it anymore. So I think in that sense, it is changing really for the good.
And then a letter from Larry Fink, the founder and CEO of BlackRock, helps.
That definitely helps,
yes.
Yeah.
No, he has a large say in the direction because he's a major shareholder in many of these corporations.
Of course, yeah.
Yes.
No,
so it's good to see, and we talked about it prior to this interview, that of course there are a lot of millennials. We're here at the Debt Office, and if I talk to many of our new employees, they have like sustainability is part of their mindset because they are going to live on this earth for many more decades. But it's good to see that big corporates are also shifting direction.
Definitely. Maybe also interesting because we are Brightvibes, sustainability is a very important pillar of our content. But we have 4 pillars. Okay. One pillar is about inspiring people. The second one is about personal growth. The third one is about better society, and the fourth one is about a sustainable planet. And for people to start caring about other people, for people to start caring about the planet and everything else that lives on the planet, we believe that it's really important that they first connected their hearts with their minds. So that's why we also pay a lot of attention to personal growth and feature inspiring people in order to make people more receptive to stories about what they can do in order to help other people or to help our planet. I think that's one of the main things, actually, I think, with Brightvibes that we're trying to do is we're trying to, make people more conscious that, and that's something which I deeply believe in. I sometimes find it hard to grasp, but I do believe really that we're all one. I think it's really important that we as humanity realize that we form a part of the ecosystem on this planet, and we are not here to dominate it. We've tried to dominate it, and to be honest, I'm Mr. Brightvibes, and we fucked it up. I'm really worried about the state of the planet, and I'm very hopeful that we can fix it, and I know that we can, but we need to hurry up. And this is maybe one of the I don't know. I know that we're running short on time. But you asked me questions about the business model and what we want to do in the next 3 years. We want to increase our positive impact on society by factor 10.
Wow.
And I know how to do it. We need to do 3 things. We need to create more and better videos. Currently, we produce about 2 videos a week. We can easily make 6 to 8 stories a week. It's no problem to find these great stories that meet our criteria. No problem at all. We want to increase the reach of each video. So we can do that by creating better content, adopting our content better for different platforms, by going into different languages, by expanding our distribution network. which already is really big, but we can make that much bigger. And the third thing that we want to do is that those people that we reach through more videos is that we want to become a stronger connector. So through a new brightvibes.com platform, we connect people and initiatives to collaborate more. So those are the three things that we need to do. And I think we need to do this because, as Jan Ropman said very wisely, we do not live in an era of change. We live in a change of era. And we want to make sure that we help push that change and make that a positive change. And we cannot just do that over the axis of business. So with branded content and advertising and, charging some other distributors for distributing some of their content on our social channels, it doesn't make enough money to tell all those stories that need to be told. So that's why we also founded the Brightvibes Foundation, through which we will do only non-profit projects that are clearly defined and funded through philanthropy, through donations and the likes. So we will continue to do commercial work because we believe that working with brands is extremely important. If you look at the big powers in our world, who can change the world? It's us people, consumers. It is governments. We need NGOs also, and non-governmental organizations, and we need companies. So we don't want to exclude anybody. Some say that companies are the big evil. I really do not believe that, and I think that they can have a huge positive impact, and that's why we want to continue to work with them. But not only, and we don't want to be dependent on them. So there are different revenue streams. So there will also be the donation part in the foundation, and then we have helping those big brands to also turn the tide for the good through our company.
Fantastic. And I love your statement that reminds me of an advertising slogan we heard in our youth: a better world starts with yourself, which is really valid, I think, for the personal growth pillar that you also have in your mission. It's
so true. It is so true. If you look at it goes like, if you want to have a huge impact, you need to do something. You need to tell a small story. So people come to us and go like, okay, we did these 10 things and we had impact on 100, in 100 ways. It's like, okay, that's a story nobody's going to understand. So you need to make it small. You need to make it emotional. You need to make it tangible.
You need to find your black swan.
Exactly. No, but that's what we do. We have huge success by telling tiny, little, intimate, positive, inspiring stories. It's not by telling huge stories, it's by making small stories. And you're so right. I mean, it's Mahatma Gandhi, I think, who said, be the change you want to see. And I've had the incredible pleasure of talking to people who completely live that way. Afro Shah, the guy who in the end got 100,000 people involved in his beach cleanup. He's got the support from the Indian Prime Minister. He does it as a volunteer. He's a lawyer during the week. And he said, you can complain about the government not cleaning it up, but that doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. So I just started cleaning things up. And then I asked people people came to me, or I asked some people, I said, hey, I'm cleaning this up. Do you feel like joining me? And then people sign up. Instead of pointing to people, saying, hey, you should clean this up. No, he does it. He is the change you want to see. And that's so incredibly powerful.
Fantastic. I think this is ending with a Mahatma Gandhi quote is always incredible. So thank you so much for being in the show, Michiel, and telling us this very inspiring story. I think we'll all rush to Brightvibes now to check out the latest videos and subscribe to your newsletter.
Thank you so much, Wim. It was a pleasure.
And let's continue to fight the good fight. Thank
you so
much.
Let's amplify the good together.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.